1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Star of the show here with us here tonight. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
State
Good to see
Rep
you all.
45. Our favorite state rep.
You're just saying that because I'm on with you tonight.
I always, hey.
No, he says that all the time. He does.
Okay.
That's right.
All right.
Every time I can. State Rep 45 is the one. Hey, let's, we got a lot we want to talk about. I want to talk about some of that Medicaid fraud, some of the data center stuff, so that constitutional amendment with the voter ID. But you got something that's kind of interesting here on gun rights, okay? So why don't we just knock that off real quick here and let's hear about it. Yeah,
I think that we're approaching a time, guys, when we have a super red majority that we absolutely must fortify the Second Amendment rights of Ohio citizens, especially when we're watching Virginia. And none of our gun bills, whether it's my HB 495 or Tex Fisher's SAPA, the Second Amendment Preservation or Protection Act, none of our gun bills, no strong fortifying gun bills have moved in this General Assembly in the last 2 years. I think when you look at Virginia, that a lot of people want to sit back and think Ohio won't, we're not going to go there. Well, you know what? I'm sure that the Republican majority in Virginia thought they weren't going to go there either.
So, Jennifer, real quick, what happened in Virginia for us that don't know?
Virginia has all but lost their gun rights. They have changed their education, their concealed carry has gone. We are losing the right to be able to take our cross-border concealed carry license where we have reciprocity with other states. Virginia is talking about different training that maybe other states don't require. And then the federal government, some in the federal government, probably Democrats, are saying that they would like to mirror the Virginia law federally. That is where SAPA, Tex Fisher's SAPA, comes in for us. Sorry, my clock is going off. And so, you know, it in a super red majority, we are without excuse to fortify our gun rights. And that's where I'm at.
What are you afraid of then with Ohio? What are you afraid of might happen specifically?
Well, we have a weak constitutional carry law. So right now, we have a weak preemption, meaning that municipalities can change different laws and make laws differently. We want to strengthen our state law and prevent any kind of preemption, meaning stricter laws in smaller cities or townships than what the state does. And then on top of that, if you have, you know how we used to have a rifle in the back of our truck? And then if you have a pistol in your belt because you're concealed carrying a pistol, if you get stopped in certain jurisdictions because you have 2 loaded weapons in your car, that is against the law in Ohio. And our concealed carry law requires you have it on your person. So if you're in your car and you take it off your person, now I don't know why you would, but if you sit it in the chair next to you, the seat next to you in your car, that is against the law in Ohio.
Wait, are you talking about for a revolver, a loaded revolver? Because I don't carry it with me. I put it right in that I put it like on the seat or something next
in the console.
To me. On the console. I have it in the console. You allowed to do that?
You have to have it on your person. It needs to be on your person.
I didn't know that. Yikes.
I did not.
The other thing, if you have a misdemeanor 1 or 2, if you have a misdemeanor 1 or 2 in Ohio, you can't conceal carry because, of course, the Second Amendment says shall not be infringed unless you have a misdemeanor 1, misdemeanor 2, or you put it beside you in your chair, right? No, it says shall not be infringed. We need to strengthen our concealed carry law. And this bill 495 allows you to carry other deadly weapons like a knife, which you are not allowed to conceal carry in Ohio. Brass knuckles, you are not allowed to conceal carry. You are only allowed to conceal carry a pistol. No other kind of gun, just a pistol.
Brian, so you got to get rid of that baseball bat you keep in the back of your vehicle.
Well, I'm a bit floored with that because I thought for sure you could carry it in. You can carry a pistol in the in your console.
You can put it there, like if you're walking into a store and you can't carry it, you can put it in your console. But if you are driving along and you have it, you put it beside you, and it's sitting in the car and you don't have it on. Concealed carry means you are concealing and carrying. There's some squish in the law that needs to be solidified and clarified. And personally, the Second Amendment doesn't say shall not be infringed unless it's a pistol. You should be able to conceal carry whatever deadly weapon you want to conceal carry.
Yeah, absolutely. So what bill is this again, Jennifer, that you're trying to get across?
HB 495, and if they don't want mine, then I would totally believe and be secure with the Second Amendment Preservation Act, which is the one that would say that if the federal government does something with our gun laws, that if people come in and they try to utilize our own police to enforce federal law, we would fine our police for enforcing federal law. If they send in federal law enforcement, then we can't do anything if they pass federal law. But we do have state sovereignty, and the Second Amendment Preservation Act preserves gun rights for Ohioans if the federal government makes law that we disagree with in Ohio, and preserves our sovereignty and our Second Amendment sovereignty, to be specific.
That's good. We got state reps like you. That's what I keep saying. Hey, let's go over to talk here about data centers this evening here. It's a big topic here in Ohio. So I found this on X. I just want to see if it's a confirm or not. But according to this Data Center Study Commission, is there something going on at the State House that you're aware of tomorrow? This is that committee that's trying to abolish data centers. It says join Conserve Ohio tomorrow, Monday, and pack the State House.
Yeah.
So what's that all about?
The commission was a bill that we passed that would establish a commission that would talk about the data centers. The challenge with that is that the majority caucus, though we are working on things, a lot of our concerns, me particularly, the water quality, air pollution, meaning noise pollution specifically, and some of the damage to the environment has not been adequately addressed. Our systems right now are open loop systems. They're dumping thousands and thousands of gallons of water, these data centers, into our water supply and into our aquifer. We believe that we should slow down. First of all, no tax abatements, and I already posted publicly about this, that they should not receive tax abatements. If they're going to make money, then they make money. They're a business making money, but the taxpayers of Ohio should not foot the bill. And then secondly, the environment, excuse me. If we are damaging our environment and we're damaging our water, where does that leave us? We have all the energy in the world, but we have polluted water. I think it's fair to say that when the Ohio EPA came and said that they were filing to ask to lower the water quality in Ohio, there's a reason for that. Maybe it's data centers. They didn't specifically talk about that. But when on the commission that's currently being held, and that's why it's Monday, they're holding the commission meeting Monday at 9 a.m. The reason when they ask the EPA guy, are you putting PFAS, those are forever chemicals, or glyphosates and things into the water, some of those items the EPA doesn't check for. The other thing is that these guys are releasing so much water into our water system that our water processing plants are overwhelmed and cannot handle them. Plus, they are not filtering out some of the chemicals that are being used in the water that they are using in these data centers. All of these concerns should be addressed before Ohio is saddled with these businesses that if we allow them, like we have almost 200 of them already, if we are allowing them to do this and then we come back and say, oh, now you got to do a closed loop system where you can't release the water into our water supply, those are extremely expensive. And if we come back, the majority caucus is fearful, specifically the speaker, that these companies could come back and sue us because we allowed them to start and now we're changing the rules and making them make a closed loop system. All of these cautions need to be addressed before we move forward. So I personally believe we ought to slow down. Maybe we don't call it a moratorium, a complete stop, but we must slow down and be sure that the environment is safe. And I'm not alone. I'm on a conservative legislator called Nationwide almost weekly. And the majority of the conservative legislators that I've talked to in Iowa, Arkansas, Michigan, Missouri, Kansas, North Dakota, South Dakota, everyone is concerned. And we're being told this is Chinese propaganda.
So there are a bunch of different cooling systems. You know, I was doing a little research myself. Yeah, there's like different ones, and some of them use massive amounts of water to cool it. Others have a closed loop system, like you were saying. And everything is so secretive with these data centers. You don't know what's being built. Those ones that use millions of gallons, per day, that's frightening.
Right.
We're going to use up all the fresh water that we have under the ground, and you're going to put some of this stuff back into Lake Erie, these forever chemicals and everything. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's got to slow down. Well, now, did not DeWine say that there is, he's putting a freeze at the moment on any new data centers coming in and getting the tax, sales tax abatement and property tax stuff? That's something he's done?
Yes.
Or
yes.
he's looking into, or what's the story with that then, I guess?
Yes, that's what he just put out last week. But I'm in agreement with an organization called the Legislative Energy Action Foundation.com, and they're out of Texas. I believe the lady's name is Nancy White. These guys believe that before these data centers come in, and she has legislation that I'm looking at that says the communities that are going to be affected by these data centers need forewarned, and they need to be aware these things are coming before it ever happens. And then there are some people who believe that there should be a vote placed on a ballot so that the community can vote as to whether they want these things. Now, you can argue about local control, but there are also some people who want to call data centers part of our infrastructure, a critical infrastructure. That would include things like medicine as a critical infrastructure in the United States. If we call data centers critical infrastructure and part of the government, then that opens up a door for government then to require some of these things. They're no longer a private industry, they're infrastructure, and therefore the government and the legislature has a little bit more power to act, because right now we see them as private business, and we try to separate private business and government.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let me get to a couple of questions. You have a question on data centers?
I've got all sorts of questions on this. I'm more than a bit confused. I've got Tom Zawistowski, who's been doing this for close to 20 years. And he's saying, Brian, you're all wrong about the data centers. All of this information, this misinformation or disinformation, is all Chinese propaganda, and there's nothing wrong with these data centers. And my question is, well, how many data centers can we handle in the state of Ohio? We've got 200, I understand now. Can we handle 2,000? Can we handle 20,000? Is there an upper limit on the number of data centers? Because, quite frankly, they're coming here because of our natural resources and our land availability. And Perry Village here in Lake County was a prime example of them talking to the mayor, the former mayor who dropped out recently, and they signed an NDA. So, and understand if they don't move forward, the company could stands to make, I don't know, $500,000 or something as a fine against the community for not moving forward. So I'm with Jennifer on this. We need to tap the brakes and really understand what we're getting into, because I wouldn't want 20 years from now that they got 10,000 data centers and you've got no water availability.
Correct.
And
where are you if you have a ton of energy and a ton of AI, but you have no water? You're dead. I mean,
right.
You maybe. I mean,
so
the argument is
I don't know what is true and what is not, Jennifer. I just don't know.
And we don't either. So shouldn't we know first? And I think, the Ohio people are not dumb, and neither are any of us on this show. Now, sometimes I may do dumb things. I agree, or even say dumb things. But the fact of the matter is, an NDA automatically makes you concerned. An NDA automatically goes, what you hiding? What are you hiding? Why do you need an NDA if you're proud of what you're doing and you have nothing to hide? I mean,
right.
If I have my hand behind my back and there's nothing in my hand, and you see me with my hand behind my back, you say, what's behind your back? You say nothing. Well, then why do you have your hand behind your back? I mean,
yeah,
really?
Right,
so
right. The very nature of an NDA.
NDAs? Right? Then why? Okay, has anyone ever answered? Why are there NDAs then? Why did they sign an NDA and now they can fine them $500,000 if they don't follow through? What is that about?
Yeah, and that's the thing that puzzles me a little bit here is that it seems like the state lawmakers, like yourself and others, are just as much in the dark as the common citizens here. When you try to do research on data centers, everything is put out there, it seems like, by the data centers. Everything just is so rosy, no environmental impacts. If you have the closed loop system, none of it's going to leak out. You're not going to be using any extra water or anything. I did find out one thing. I'll just share this with you real quick. Out there in Pike County, in Piketon, where they're going to be building the 10 gigawatt one, which would be the largest probably in the world, believe it or not. And I was thinking to myself, why are they putting the largest data center in the world? They bought 3,700 acres. Why are they plopping that massive behemoth thing right there in Portsmouth, Ohio?
Oh my gosh!
And next to the river.
I had no idea.
Well, it's next to the river. They like the climate in Ohio, but you know what the biggest reason is? I found it was federally owned land. So the feds own that land, and it's being fast-tracked. It's being fast-tracked through the Trump administration. So they are bypassing the state of Ohio. Now, when they did the groundbreaking ceremony out there in March, you had all the figureheads out there. You had DeWine, you had Ramaswamy, Jay Edwards, Christina Rogner, and on and on and on. Everybody was out there to get themselves into the picture. But then I'm also thinking, well, I don't even know if Ohio's involved in it. I think it's totally the feds are fast-tracking that one all the way. So that's another issue. If it's federally funded land, I don't know if we could stop them.
Well, they're going in
building.
everywhere. There's one going in Springfield. There's one going in Portage County. If not, it's already there. I mean, there's 200. I mean, we are a big state, but not quite 200. But I'm the co-chair of the Ohio Maha Caucus, and we had Mr. Stephen Petty, who is an expert chemical engineer, and he talked about the necessity to have attached water treatment facilities in these things and change the operations. So anyway, I apologize for my clock. I'm going to have to take that off the wall.
That's all right. We love it. We love it, hearing the clock and everything. I'll let Jonathan come in here.
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to say I'm all for all the great conversation about potential impact to water, noise, the sound that these things make, and environmental impact, etc. But I am unwilling to get to that stage of conversation before the questions are answered about why we need them. That's fundamental. That's critical to me. I am unwilling to allow, under a government-run or private enterprise, the sorts of things that these things portend. The implications of these data centers, and I want to put it in perspective for our listening audience. I ended up in a conversation with George Satari last night. George and I were kind of kicking this whole data center thing around. To put things in perspective, I've had occasion to tour a couple of data centers, and these were, I think the most recent was probably over 15 years ago, and it was a very large space downtown Cleveland. If you want to put things in perspective, George Satari is a CPA, and he thinks in terms of accounting software, and he said there are 5 million people that use QuickBooks. This server that would support and serve 5 million people would probably fit in your closet. That's all data. We now have most businesses, big corporations, that are putting all their corporate data, their everything, in the cloud. We have more than sufficient existing data storage and utilization to more than cover all of that. Then you add in people recording videos, and if you're like me at all, on my smartphone, I have triplicates of every picture I've ever taken. Those things store very easily. In fact, in my office, I have about 40 terabytes of storage space. That could support probably a city block of people. When you get into an average data center, the size of one may be the size of like maybe a Target at the largest. If you replace that, and let's say we build a data center that's the size of one of those big, giant Amazon distribution centers, those are around 1.5 to 2 million square feet. I believe that the current data that people tend to cycle through, which is posting online, social media, etc., with maybe a couple of those data centers that are the size of an Amazon distribution hub could service our entire continent, Canada, America, and Mexico. We're now talking about building data centers that are 3,000 to 7,300 acres. It's inconceivable the order of magnitude of growth that represents. So anybody who's out there who is concerned about centralized banking, digital currency, about digital ID, tokenization of stuff, which gives up your control and your rights to ownership of things, has to be asking the question, why on earth would we step aside and allow data centers to be built when nobody can prove? I challenge anybody out there. Send in the heads of Oracle and
I'm in
NVIDIA.
Columbus, Ohio. It's home.
Try to convince any sane person that we need to take the data centers we currently have that are more than sufficient, but somehow magnify or multiply them by, I just made up a term because I don't know a large enough number, like a squintillion fold. Why do we possibly need 7,000 acres of data center when the current stuff we have, which is neatly tucked into spaces all throughout the state and the country, they're more than sufficient? Add in the last piece of the puzzle for me, and then I want to kick it back. And yes, I'm more than happy to talk about environment, etc. But add in all of this concern. I don't know about where you listen or where you are, listening audience, but around me, there are huge pockets of concern about these flock cameras that are going in. We've got Mentor, Lakewood, Cleveland, East Cleveland, Gates Mills, Willoughby Hills, Beechwood. All of a sudden, everybody's all over social media saying, why on earth, why do we have all these, and Timberlake? John Mara has been on this program. He's the mayor of Timberlake. Timberlake's another one. Why do we suddenly need flock cameras going in everywhere? Coincidentally, at the same time, we're building massive, over-expansive data centers that we don't appear to even need. That's the starting point for my line of question.
That's exactly, it's the flock cameras too, that, as you know, with my history, I sponsored anti-CBDC legislation, pro-transactional gold and silver, so that we protect ourselves against digital currency. And then the flock cameras, my township alone has at least, I'd say 50 of them. And here's what I would say to that. Everybody always says, and I love my PD, okay? I love my police officers, but let me say this. What Benjamin Franklin said, Jennifer Gross's rendition. If you give up safety, if you give up freedom for safety, you will have neither freedom nor safety. And everybody always says, well, Jen, there was this gang, came from Indiana and we tracked him and we arrested him in 9 hours. Again, I say to you, yes, if you give up freedom for safety, you will have neither freedom nor safety. Government, when it is good, is okay, right? When it's a okay government, it might be okay. But when it's a bad government, it is oppressive and tyrannical. And eventually it seems to end up that way. Look at Rome.
Bingo.
Agree.
Absolutely. Well, hey, let's, because we only have so much time, let's try to get into some of this Medicaid fraud if we could this evening too as well. And data centers is an ongoing topic, and I'd love to hear more about it from you next time you're on, or even before that. But let's just talk here. I got a discussion starter here. I was listening to Mike Davila. Mike Davila was speaking, and he was speaking about this topic on the Jack Windsor report.
LexisNexis, which maintains a lot of the Medicaid eligibility verification data here in the state. They responded back a couple weeks later. Their initial findings were that there was a 29% failure rate among verified enrollees. You run the math on it, it adds up to over $6 billion in potential waste. Over 4,000 recipients with more than $100,000 in liquid assets in their bank accounts. 12 recipients with over $1 million in their bank accounts. I don't know why you keep that money in a bank account with interest being what it is these days, but not my concern. The point is, these are folks who should not be receiving Medicaid because they have that much cash.
Yep.
We then began a back and forth with the then ODM director, Maureen Corcoran, asking about this. That went on for a few weeks. eventually, as you indicated, I introduced House Bill 356, and then we rolled the provisions of that bill into the operating budget, signed into law. I was actually surprised it wasn't vetoed, along with whatever it was, 60 some other items that were vetoed in the budget last time around.
All right, so I just cut out a little snippet there, but I just want to rehash a little bit of what Mike DeVille, he's the state rep out of Strongsville, was saying there. So he went into Nexus Lexis. I think that's some kind of a platform run by lawyers or whatever. But anyhow, they have Medicaid information on the state of Ohio there. They said it was 29% error rate, or 29% fraudulent rate on a thing called the ABD, which is the aged, the blind, and the disabled. So that category. And he said it came to $6 billion. Now, I know that you're also on the Medicaid fraud committee or Medicaid committee, maybe, just a Medicaid committee.
I'm the chair of the Medicaid committee.
You're the chair of the Medicaid committee. That's good to know. All right. So, and then he was saying that, there's some bank accounts. Now, these were bank accounts. This wasn't like their total assets or anything. Just a bank account with over $1 million in it. There were 12 people like that, 4,000 people that had hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars just in a bank account. That's not their stock portfolio or anything else. It's just some free money. But they're all in Medicaid. So what his point was that, this is a situation that is similar to what's going on in Minnesota or any of the other California, whatever. But this is Midwest Ohio.
So let's bring it down a little bit. The age blind and disabled category that LexisNexis found and brought to Representative Davila, we had an amendment on reassessing membership and the ability to be in Medicaid in the original budget. Davila's was more detailed, but that was the age blind and disabled. What I brought out in my joint committee in March was that there are 2 zip codes in Franklin County using 40%, and that was through the auditor Faber, that there were 2 zip codes using 40% of Ohio's Medicaid home care dollars. And there are 2 zip codes. We don't know exactly what people groups there are there, but we suspect that we do know. And then what we found then when Luke Rosiak, who I also brought before my Medicaid committee, he showed us that the issues are in home care and then something called personal care services. So in Ohio, I understand that we pay $28.49 an hour for someone in some homes to come in and clean and cook for people. Now, that's fine if you have a paraplegic or a person who is a bilateral below the knee amputee and they have wounds and they can't cook and they haven't their home is not handicapped equipped, or they are unable. Maybe they've lost their arms and they can't cook, but they still are at home, but they're still somewhat independent. I know it sounds crazy, but some people can do a lot with their feet and do other things. Those people deserve personal care services. But what we found in Ohio Medicaid is that people with lower back pain, or people with 2 teenagers at home and the mom's working part-time and dad's on disability, are receiving 16 hours of personal care services. And then what we found specifically around Reynoldsburg and in New Albany, near New Albany, are the Bhutanese population and some people that are sort of like chain migrating into home care services. And then ODM Director Corcoran randomly, as well as the governor, because remember, the ODM is an executive branch function under the governor, allowed electronic visit verification to be randomly turned off. So when that happened, or they made it optional, when that happened, we had no ability to see if home visits were happening. Well, what we found was home care companies, and that's what Luke found, 66 home care companies in Columbus that had billed $66 million, and they were all fraudulent companies that did no home care. They did no home care. And we have now found $6 to $8 billion in those systems alone. So electronic visit verification was bleeding money. Personal care services bleeding out money. and home care services bleeding out money. There are some other issues as well. Hospice has an issue, autism with the school and autism. I'm hearing, so we're listening to some whistleblowers that are bringing forth. We don't have evidence in those areas. But right now, some of these programs in Ohio are on life support. And what HB 795, the vehicle we are using to stop the bleed in the Ohio Medicaid Committee, for which Davila was just added, Stewart was just added, and Rep. Williams was just added to my committee. We are now working on a bill to stop the bleed. It is the first phase of trying to stop the immediate bleed of these programs. It has nothing to do. We are not touching the age blind and disabled. We are not touching autism at this point. But we will go further in. And what we found was the AG did not have the tools to prosecute these people. So if they stole $1 million, let's just say that the AG was able to find them $150,000. We want to change that in HB 795. We want to change that so that if you rob the Ohio people of $1 million, we can now fine you that $1 million that you stole from the Ohio taxpayer. Right now, we can't do that. And the majority of the fines and punishments are a misdemeanor. We are going to raise the fine if you thieve and steal from the Ohio people. And let's be really clear. What is Medicaid for? It's for babies, mamas, elderly, and disabled. That is what Medicaid is really for. And the kindness and the generosity of Ohioans should be their money, if taken put into Medicaid, needs to be given to the people who need it, not to thieves who are stealing from us.
Absolutely. Here's something else from Rosiak here. Watch this for 1 second here.
Firms. The front doors are open, but inside, the 7 massive complexes are as abandoned as a post-apocalyptic horror scene.
Now we found Horizon Home Health Care.
And that closet right here made $5 million.
Yeah.
$5 million over a couple of years, but it's just a closet.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyhow, that closet right there, $5 million. So they're stealing from us. They're taking our money. This is tax dollars. Thank God you guys are looking into it and everything. But the quick question I have, and everybody has, is why did it take somebody like Luke Rosiak, Nick Shirley? I saw Jack Windsor out there with a camera one time, Mahek Cook. Why is it taking these people, investigative reporters, to uncover this when we have a Medicaid fraud unit? And it doesn't seem like anybody was catching anything in the past.
Well, you could argue that our Medicaid budget is $43 billion. And when government is huge, it does not necessarily become more efficient. As a person who never ran for office before I became a state legislator, I think it's really good for an average person like me to see the inside. The inefficiency of government cannot be argued. The larger we get, and we are the 7th largest state in the union, the more difficult it is to catch this. And what happened was the people that are thieving and stealing from the Ohio people got greedy, and there got so many hands were in the cookie jar that finally they were caught. But let's be clear, Luke Rosiak's data came from the Doge information. He went through the Doge report. He saw, I don't know how he did the analysis, but he looked into that, and he's the one who found those. He looked at these addresses, he went and he came, and he's the one who reported it. Now, let's be clear, Auditor Faber, before my committee, when I brought him in the joint committee, brought some of this forward in March, but no reporter in Ohio wrote about it. None. Why? I would tell you why. I think it's because some people like to have their hands, and maybe they're even in the government in Ohio, and they liked the way it was business as usual. So we lost our joint Medicaid oversight committee in the budget vote, and I was against that. Some people say it was doing nothing, it had no authority, but that organization could have been easily turned over into a joint Medicaid oversight, or a Doge, if you will. And, I can go on about the history. Medicaid used to be under JFS. And the agreement when it came out from under JFS was that it would have oversight. That oversight was called the Joint Medicaid Oversight Committee. So, some people
missing the oversight, though. We're missing the oversight on that.
Well,
right?
Some people believe that now that we have standing committees, remember, I became the chair of Medicaid in January 2025. but we'd never had a House Medicaid committee until the current speaker came in and made that. He did it when he was president in the Senate. So I also have a counterpart, Senator Romanchuk, who's chair of the Senate Medicaid committee. All of these people have been in the legislature a long time, but remember that the oversight was supposed to be there, and we audited. We found double and triple payments under Auditor Faber in 2021. And that's where the MCOs are receiving double payments when the patient moves to Michigan and they were in Ohio. Now they're making 2 capitated payments, and the MCOs didn't acknowledge that either. So we've got a lot of work to do. But right now in phase 1, it is stop the bleed to save the programs. Are we going to completely cut all the programs? Probably not. But it's going to be difficult to rein in this kind of spending. And personal care services mentioned with a double below the knee amputee, yes, is healthcare, but I would argue that cooking and cleaning 16 hours a week for the average person who has lower back pain, that's unacceptable. And we need to get in there and find out what physicians, nurse practitioners, and PAs are writing prescriptions for this, not following up and spending our taxpayer dollars. And there's no proof those visits were ever done. As you saw with Luke, that home care company charged $5 million of home care visits that never happened.
That's right, never happened. So there's got to be some repercussions on that. People,
so
you know what has to hit the fan already.
Right. So let me be clear. We're taking this very, very seriously. That's what I want the Ohio people to know. And I personally am known to be a bulldog fighter for the people. I always have been. Well, it's not. Yeah, I agree with everything that you're saying there. We've just got to start cracking down. The state has to get tough already. Man. Right. And that's what we're going to do in this first rendition. We hope to have a bill passed by June 10th, something that we can send to the Senate that they will agree with, as well as something that the governor will not veto. So our goal is not to put any appropriation in there, but of course we want the governor's approval. And of course, a lot of the things that the governor put, he said, some executive orders several weeks ago, we're going to codify some of those things. It was one of the first times I agreed with the governor. But the fact of the matter is the governor was over this organization. He is the executive branch, and all of the organizations, we need data sharing agreements between the AG, the SOS, the auditor, Medicaid. We need open transparency, which I very much worked on in this last budget, because you asked why it didn't happen. I couldn't see it. I could not see the spending in January 2025. So I get the budget, and it's a line item of a huge amount of money, billions. And I'm like, okay, I can't see where the money's going. I can't see it. So my goal, in order to figure out what's going on, we have to see what's going on. And so I asked for multiple amounts of increased transparency. I had $520 million worth of cuts in the Medicaid budget, but I fought for those amendments, but they were not accepted into the budget. So
there you go. That's another problem. That stuff is not getting accepted. We go around the horn here. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, well, when I think about this, and I think about Governor DeWine's statement that fraud, waste, and abuse in government is just a cost of doing business for the government, it just rankles me to no end. I'm telling you, when I think about, yes.
Brian, that's why people like you need to run for office, because you see, I think that when people are in government too long, they get tired. I mean, I've been fighting, and there's still a lot of fight left in me, and I hope I get that my constituency in District 45 elects me again. But the fact of the matter is that people that are in government too long, I think, begin to feel like there's nothing that can be done. Government's ineffective. It's inefficient at the very least. And then I think if we embrace that and we say, well, government's just ineffective. Well, when you have an average middle class person like me come in, I'm like, no, we cannot. This is not okay. I'm middle class. I'm generous to help those mama's babies disabled and elderly that need, and the very, very poor that need our assistance. Okay. I am very generous, and conservatives, by the way, are known, and the data's out there. We are way more generous than Democrats. I'm sorry, but that's the truth, and the data plays out. But the fact of the matter is, it is my job now that we know to act, and that's what we're doing.
Yes, but what really I don't understand is if we know that closet got $5 million, whoever owns that closet, why aren't they held accountable? And why doesn't the weight of the government come down on that closet and start putting people in jail? I don't understand. Now we need new laws to say, boy, if they do it again, we're really going to go after them. Now, how would I be convinced that these new laws will be enacted and somebody will be looking over what is really happening? Because I think what I'm coming to the realization, Ron Young, when he told me on his last day of office, the two top priorities of government is to protect itself and grow. That truer words were never said. And we've got a government in the state and local. There is no problem generating revenue in the state. We have a spending problem, and we have a fraud, waste, and abuse that the executive branch, they don't really care. And the legislative branch and the power brokers in the legislative branch, they don't really care either.
Well,
so who's looking out? Who's looking out for the average citizen?
I am, Brian, and I'm not queen, and I'm also, I'm an average person. I voted wrong a few times in 6 years. I see what Doug's saying there. Aren't Medicaid claims outsourced? Sometimes they are, Doug. We will revisit every single place that we are aware of. But right now, our system is on life support in the areas I've mentioned, and we must stop the bleed. So I'm aware, Brian, of a man who literally, I'm told, bought a $35 million jet. He happens to be from Bhutan. And he took off because he earned his living, and I'm sure all the people in Bhutan thought it was amazing. America, the land of opportunity. What they don't know in Bhutan is that he thieved and stole from the Ohio people. Once they leave, of course, it becomes a federal extradition case. And with that kind of money, obviously, it's worth going after. But, that's federal government, federal and all of that. We've got to stop the bleed right now for the people that need our services today in Medicaid. But we also need to tighten up. If you're a mom who has 2 teenagers at home and you're able-bodied and you work part-time and your husband's disabled, I'm sorry, but those teenagers should be cleaning up a little bit. And I don't really think the Ohio taxpayer should be footing a bill for a 16-hour cooking and cleaning bill. Maybe 4. In the generosity of my heart, I would say maybe 4. But quite frankly, when you have 2 teenagers at home, I don't think Ohio taxpayers should be paying for cooking and cleaning. It all goes back 85 or 95.
All goes back to the oversight too, because it's like they bill you these third party. A lot of them were Somalians too. That whole building was filled with Somalian providers services that nobody was there, and there was a closet that made $5 million and everything. Okay, so there's no oversight. That's a huge issue. I want to get Jonathan here one last time before we wrap it up at 8:00. But go ahead.
Boy, does our time go fast.
Yeah, we're coming down to our last couple of minutes here. The first thing to say, I've keyed in on the comments about outsourcing the claims. There's actually a company that I know personally that's just recently took over the state of Georgia. I'm making some efforts to introduce them. I am hopeful that some new resources can come into play to clean things up, in addition to the valiant efforts of Rep. Gross. Thank you for all you're doing. But here's my thought. Call ICE. Let's get on the phone, the head of ICE, and tie in some of the proposed regulation and the punishment for abuse of Ohio taxpayers to extradition, to losing any chance of citizenship. Because what we're finding, it's not universal, but we're finding a lot of those committing fraud in Ohio have come into the United States from other countries and then abuse the heck out of our systems. And then, as you mentioned, with the $35 million jet, they fly back out of the country. And I mean, recently we saw, I think there were shipments of cash that went from Columbus to Madison, Wisconsin or something, and then were flown out to another country. Let's stop the hemorrhaging, but also, to Brian's point, we've got to bring the hammer down and create the message that there is justice. Right now, I'm not seeing it, but I think it'd be a great idea to send the message that people will lose the prospect of U.S. citizenship if found robbing Ohio taxpayers.
Well, Brian, Jonathan, it's funny you say that. It's like you almost had a personal conversation with President Trump on the big, beautiful bill, because 1 October of this year, the refugees will no longer, my understanding, they will no longer qualify for Medicaid. And I will say my understanding, and I could be wrong on this, so everybody please don't check me, but know what I'm talking about. But it's we understand that when an immigrant comes into the country, we have a sponsor who signs for them. If that immigrant goes on to Medicaid or other SNAP or social services, Section 8 housing, anything like that, when they sign the immigration form and the sponsorship form, the sponsor says, I will pay for any services. I hope they understand that we are going to be coming for that money. And in the big, beautiful bill, some benefits to immigrants will be lost. And I do believe it is refugees will not be able to go on Medicaid. So I believe that was in the big, beautiful bill. I just looked it up this morning and I apologize. I forget where I saw that, but I do believe it's in the big, beautiful bill.
Awesome.
Good. So I'm not alone in that thought.
Correct. You're thinking just like the president.
So you guys are going on vacations in June, right? You're going to be taking a vacation, like the summer vacation recess and all that coming up in June.
Oh, right? Yeah. We're done in the middle of June. We have some as-needed sessions on the 17th, I believe, and then the week after that. Sorry, I apologize. I tried to turn that down. We have as-needed sessions, and then we're usually off July and August. But every other year, there's an election. And so we have, hold on just a second. I apologize. It's going to click 8 times telling us that it's almost 8 o'clock.
That's all right. See, we're doing this live. That's proof that we're doing it live, this show.
So we do go on break July and August, and then it's an election season. We do have some very tight races. The home team is going to have a real challenge this year, I believe. And that means the home team, the home Republican team. And so we will be, remember, we have an insanely long early voting. October starts October 6th. I think election day is November 6th. So we would have come back in September because we're off July and August, but we're off September, we're off October, and our projected return date is November 10th.
Wow, you guys are taking 4 months off.
I know, I'm sad, and I'm sorry about that. But I would argue, I think Brian has said this before, maybe Brian, maybe Jonathan, maybe all three of y'all. Sometimes if we don't pass law, it means there's no more rules for the people to have to follow. And we are one of the highest regulated states in the union. And when we're in session, we make more law, which oppresses you, the people, more often. And I don't agree with that. That's why you need legislators that believe in limited government and not taking handouts from the federal government. So,
you know, let's forget about that. Yeah, if you guys are gone for 4 months, that means that you can't be spending any more of our money.
Correct. We're not spending. We're not pushing more spending. We're not doing any of that.
Yeah, you're not increasing any more of the spending and stuff like that.
That's right. That's right.
Well, thank you again for making an appearance. Even if you're on vacation, feel free to come back on. You know, even if you're on vacation. Can I say
one more thing? I'll come during vacation. You know, I love you guys, but I do want to say something about HJR 9 just really quick. HJR 9 is this amendment that we're placing on the ballot that is very much, some people were pushing for HB 577, Ron Ferguson's bill. And I know we can't talk about it today, but I do want you to know, and I do apologize, my constituent was shut down in committee and she was not able to give her full testimony. I'm very upset about that. And I just want to apologize because when people come from my district to come up to testify, to use their First Amendment rights, I really value that and I really believe in that. And I just want the people listening to know that even though many trolls have bashed me and they make fun about my hair and my makeup and whatever else, my body, whatever, they make fun of everything I do. You get an opportunity to redress your government, and I believe in that. And I just want to say that.
Oh, absolutely. And
Thank you. Joe, can I mention something to Representative Groves?
Yep.
Yeah, Jennifer, you may want to listen in on June 5th, 8 a.m., Ohio Political News. We'll be talking about the property taxes and where we go from there. And there's not going to be a lot of happy representatives or executives or the judicial branch. So stay tuned.
Will I be happy? Can you just give me that? Will I be happy?
Well,
even I might be upset.
Well, let me just say,
Okay,
stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Right.
Listen in.
That's a teaser, Ryan.
He's got the teaser there. He keeps everything very close to the vest. It's going to be another signature update. The last one, is it going to be on the November ballot or not? And so we're going to do it live in the morning at 8 a.m. on Friday. So we'll just keep plugging everybody to tune in.
I'm seeing patients at 8 a.m., so I'm going to have to watch the replay.
Hey, one last question. As somebody brought up a good point there.
Gardens of CH, whoever you are, Gardens of...
Yeah. So I guess what they're saying is you guys are going to be going on vacation now, and we're not going to see you till almost the end of the year. So that kind of means that the whole fraud thing is going to be put on hold.
Oh, no. We're going to hand a bill to the Senate. Our goal is to hand a bill to the Senate before we go home. So if we have to come back the following week, we'll come back the following week. But our goal is to hand a bill that the Senate will approve and vote on and get over to the governor, and the governor will sign while we're gone. So that's the goal. But I can only get it voted out of the House. I'm only a House member. I am not queen either. So I don't get to decide what happens once the bill leaves our hot little hands in the House.
Gotcha.
Oh, you're going to send it to Senator Serino and Senator Blessing. Okay.
And Senator Romanchuk, Senate, Medicaid.
I'm not feeling warm and fuzzy about that. So,
well, Macaulay's the president still, so maybe I do believe that our goal is to work with something. And I talked with Senator Romanchuk, and he seems to agree with the direction we're going, though we have not formally decided yet everything. So we dropped a sub-bill last week. We're going to drop a second sub-bill this week, and probably a third sub-bill the following week once we get it tightened up. But it has to be small enough that we can get it voted on, but big enough to get the job and get the bleeding stopped in these areas that I've mentioned today. Not touching the age blind disabled, not touching hospice, not touching autism yet at this point. Increasing penalties and stopping the bleed in home care, personal care services, and EBB.
Awesome.
That sounds like that's a start. Hey, Joe, before we move on to the next, that's an opportune segue for me to bring up HJR 9 and SJR 10. Rep. Gross just mentioned that. If you're on social media and following Marcel Sturbich, Marcel Sturbich, in my book, should be our next Secretary of State. I was really pulling for him. He is hard at work still, as he has been for years, working on election integrity. Just boiling this down, it's a little bit of a complex ball of wax, but there is a move to put into our state constitution some bad law. There's some bad law that creates a giant loophole for election integrity that allows certain people voting in Ohio not to have to show ID. Right now, about 75 to maybe 80% of Ohio voters have to show ID. And that's going to vary from election to election. But that means that around 25% of voters in Ohio do not have a requirement. That's a loophole. There's a move now to put that into our Constitution. And there's opportunity to submit testimony and tell our state legislature you don't want it. Find Marcel Sturbich. He's got a prepackaged thing. It's point and shoot, super easy. It's one of those one-click. Click here. You can put your zip code in, and it tells you, and it's going to send a message to your representatives. It also brings up a phone number for your reps if you want to make those phone calls. So that tackles. Let's get a lot of voices behind this. One of the comments that was made, and I think it was Speaker Huffman, if I'm not mistaken, really frustrating, made a comment to some media, apparently, saying, well, it's just the usual players, the usual people coming in and expressing their dislike of bills. Hogwash, I say. It is most of America and most of Ohio who want stricter voting laws that weed out and reduce the likelihood of voter abuse and voter fraud. So I think Huffman is off the mark on that, and I think it's an inappropriate comment. Find Marcel Sturbich, or if you follow me, I've reposted that. I've been sending the email for a couple of days now. But hop on, there's a great chance there. Also, if you are in Northeast Ohio, there's an opportunity to submit similar opinion or testimony for a meeting taking place on Wednesday morning that has to do with NOACA or will impact NOACA and other organizations like it. Find me on social media for more about that one. That's another complex. I don't want to take another 3 or 4 minutes to unpack that one. But if you follow me, that's on social media, you'll find me either J Broadbent or JR Broadbent. Find me and find those posts, and you're going to get all kinds of information about this thing and how we're fighting back on Wednesday morning against NOACA. Those are big things coming up this week.
All right. Thanks a lot. Hey, Jennifer, we're going to have to say goodnight to you. Thanks again. We'll have you on real soon next month if you're, God willing, and if you're available, okay?
Good night, gentlemen. Thank you so much for letting me join you tonight. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you very much.
All right, we've got Chris Long coming up here in just a second. But before, Chris, hang loose for a minute. Before we get to you, I got to, Kent, you're on here. What do we got brewing here?
Yeah, make sure to go to, well, first off, thank you to, I think it's Larry James for the 100 stars on Facebook. You can, on any platform, mainly, you can either do super chats for YouTube. Make sure to subscribe. The best way to get notified for the show is subscribe. Click the bell on any platform, either on, you can like us on Facebook, you can subscribe and click the bell on YouTube. Make sure you click the bell, you'll get notified when we go live. And that's the same thing with Rumble, with a Rumble rant. Also, thank you to, I think there was someone that bought one of the t-shirts, the Freedom 250 t-shirts that we have now in the store. Make sure to check it out. We have all the other items. Make sure to go to ohiopoliticalnews.com/shop and get your t-shirts. We're going to have a whole list of Freedom 50 t-shirts coming up in June. And we'll do a 20% discount on them just to be nice. And also, if you want to, I know Jonathan was mentioning any kind of active or events, let us know. We want to get out there. We do live stream, but it does cost money to do this. So if you can go to Ohio Political News, there's a donate button. You can donate, or you can do a super chat, a Rumble rant, send some stars on Facebook. We appreciate all of the help, and if you want to contact us for any events going on in your neck of the woods, just reach us out at joe@ohiopoliticalnews.com. Thanks, Joe.
All right, thanks a lot there, Kent. Thank you.
Well, actually, if there's another minute, there is another one we may want to make a plan to send some people out. I'll help share the news. I received a text message from some of the folks at Turning Point Action. Speaking of Tex Fisher, Representative Gross brought up Tex Fisher. I hear a lot of good things about him. I've never had a chance to meet him in person. On July 7th in Cortland, Ohio, that is, what is that, Trumbull? I forget which county that is in. At the, it looks like we've got State Senator Sandra O'Brien, State Representatives Dave Thomas and Nick Santucci, and Tex Fisher will be at Top Notch Diner, 6:30 p.m. on July 7th. So you may want to mark your calendar for that. And among us, we'll talk at Ohio Political News and see if maybe one or two of us can go out there and live stream the thing, if we can get permission.
Very good, very good. All right, we got to get this guy on here because time is money. Time is money. That's what you. How you doing, Chris?
Good evening, Joe. How are you? Good to see you.
Very good to see you too. So we want to talk. I think we were talking about Medicaid fraud with Jennifer Gross, and I think that's another topic that you want to piggyback off of as well for the state of Ohio. So, and I know you got some great insider information, right? So it's all yours. Go ahead. Let's hear from it.
Do you have the video of Dr. Oz that I sent you? Can we play that? It's also on our website.
Ohio is home to the second largest Somali population in the entire U.S. after Minneapolis. And I'm standing in front of the LaBelle Home Healthcare Company, where it used to be, when its owner, Najumi Tatsing, was recently sentenced to 3 years in jail for Medicaid fraud. Now, Ohio Medicaid paid $5.7 million for home health aid services when the company inflated the hours of services. They billed for registered nurses, none were present. They billed for care of people who were dead or ineligible to receive Medicaid. Now, charging for dead people is a bad look when you go to court. We use data mining to identify the subcode against corruption. I'll give you an example. Franklin County, where we are now, alone by itself accounts for more than a third of the $1.5 billion spent on home health care in Ohio. That is 3 times more than what would be expected. Now process that statistic. The corruption is so widespread here that over a third of the entire state's home health care budget goes to this county, which is 3 times more than you'd expect. They also identified 288 Medicaid registered home health aid companies operating out of just 7 office buildings along one nearby road. Some of these buildings are nearly vacant. Home health care and personal care services have become the subject of nearly all of the recent fraud prosecutions in Ohio. Everyone's upset about criminals billing for services that were never rendered. There were ghost visits, time fraud. The Ohio auditor found that almost half of the personal care services claims had no electronic verification. We don't even know the business happened. This is fraud at scale. As a result, Governor DeWine has asked the federal government to allow a statewide 6-month Medicaid moratorium on new home health care businesses, right? We're allowing that. Within 24 hours, we're given permission. And I'm proud of that, because if we do this the right way, people will stop using Medicaid as a piggy bank. Vice President Vance, who's from Ohio, wants the White House Anti-Fraud Task Force coming after fraudsters everywhere with everything we have.
What has a decade of woke, left-wing, anti-development policies done to our country?
Have you ever seen that video?
No.
Pull that video up, because it's one of my favorites.
I'm in Columbus, Ohio. It's home to the second largest.
Go ahead, Chris. So, okay. So there's...
Hey, wait a second. What kind of sloppy production work was that right there? You're supposed to come right back to me. You know, I really go out of my way to...
Hey.
Wait. Let me finish. I go out of my way to talk about Ohio political news and what a great job you guys are doing. Clean up that work that you just did. Okay, that was
all
terrible.
Kent's fault. It was all Kent's fault. He did it, not me. He did it.
Okay, listen, let's tighten it up, gentlemen. Let's tighten it up. Okay, listen, we do have breaking news here tonight. Let me say this about Representative Gross. She's doing great work on the committee, the Medicaid Fraud Committee. They're working on some comprehensive legislation. I'm sure she broke that down. I wasn't able to watch the first hour. I can only be on with you for about 20 minutes here tonight. In fact, there is a very busy week coming up in Columbus on multiple fronts. And we've got some work to do tonight, actually, about social studies standards, which is basically American government, American history standards, to make sure that the Department of Education isn't screwing something up with what we call the Founding American Documents curriculum. We've had it in place for now over 15 years, and we have to safeguard it. We fought off the Liberal Teachers Union like 5 different times to make sure that the curriculum from the 8th through the 12th grade, with an end of course exam in American government, American history, half a credit hour for American government, half a credit hour for American history, stays in place. They want that And of course, exam requirement eliminated. They haven't been able to do it. We've been fighting the largest union in Ohio, which is the teachers union, and we've won. We're 5-0. We have won against them, but we need to still stay vigilant to make sure that curriculum is in the classroom. Anyways, all that to say, let's move on. Medicaid fraud. Why is this important? This is huge. This is the biggest story of the year in Ohio. It's the biggest story I've seen in 20 years working the State House in my 25 years of public policy. It's the biggest story ever. It's not going away. We broke it back in December into early January, February. We were on this broadcast talking about John Solomon's report, what Nick Shirley did in Minneapolis, had a direct tie to Columbus, Ohio. And as you can see, the feds are here. Dr. Oz was here last week, and then he did this video. Now, it's funny because the Dispatch, Columbus Dispatch, did a little article about something he said about DeWine. And I think they're trying to play nice with DeWine a little bit. But quite honestly, J.D. Vance knows better. He's got to come in with a hammer next week, okay? A hammer. And if we don't see the FBI raids that you saw in Minneapolis at the Leering Center and other places where they're going in, taking out the boxes and people getting indicted, and then what you saw then last week out of Minneapolis, 15 indictments for over $90 million. Now, why do I say that not really anything's being done? 3 years for $5.5 million in fraud? Are you kidding me? That's a 10-year sentence at minimum. So you don't have prosecutors in Franklin County that are taking this seriously. But they're going to get real serious about it because when their offices get raided, that's right, the county offices, and listen, folks, I do have breaking news for you here tonight. I hope you stayed with us because we have some big news. This whole video that you just saw with Dr. Oz, and by the way, if you didn't catch all that because he was talking very fast, you need to go to our website, Ohio Christian Alliance. It's up on the top of the page. There's an article there, a comprehensive report of how we got here with this Medicaid fraud, all that's been reported up to date. That was an article that I wrote that actually went viral. And then is this video by Dr. Oz. Well, he is kind of the forerunner to come to Ohio before J.D. Vance gets here. So it is all played out just as we broke on this program. And it's important to have that kind of integrity. When I'm bringing to you news, those things actually have to happen, okay? So what did we say? We said the feds were on the ground and working with the state auditor and the attorney general's office. That's absolutely happening and been confirmed. We said that the attorney general last week was going to make an announcement on additional Medicaid fraud cases. Now, here's where I think it's pathetic. The state attorney general is only sent out about 16 indictments totaling, all told, $1 million. Now, that's pathetic when we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. And the state auditor is saying $9 billion in fraud. This is Keith Faber. Now, here's the other breaking news. He is going, and I told you, there's a congressional hearing, and that officials from Ohio were going to be starting to report before Congress this Wednesday in the special committee that is chaired to overview Medicaid fraud nationally. Keith Faber, Auditor of State of Ohio, will be testifying this Wednesday. We'll have that information up in that video on our Facebook page of Ohio Christian Alliance, also on our website. So you quickly go there and watch online as the state auditor testifies before Congress and takes questions. And see, he's the good guy. This is the guy that's actually been blowing the whistle. What I want to see is the stupid, ridiculous, incompetent administrative officials in the DeWine administration being called in, swear under oath, and have to testify of why they did what they did that led to this massive fraud over the last 8 years during the DeWine administration. There's no escaping this for Mike DeWine, no escaping it whatsoever. So the legislature's scrambling. You saw that. Representative Gross and others, they're scrambling. They know this is the hottest issue out there, absolutely. And it's not going to go away. And so you got the state auditor now before Congress. That's going to be a national spotlight. He's already been on Fox about a half a dozen times. But now you're going to see the former Medicaid director who quit 6 months ago. This woman, okay, her name escapes me, but she's going to be called in and she's going to have to testify. And I think that all of them are going to start pointing to her. Who turned off the GPS units? What are the GPS units? That means so when you apply for home health care, and you say that you're applying for an elderly person and you're taking care of them, and they're paying you $30 an hour, okay? So you're racking up hours and money and all this kind of stuff. The GPS unit shows that on your phone that you were actually at the location, that you were helping that person, that elderly person, or that family member that needed help from you, that you were actually on location. And I got a whistleblower from within the Attorney General's office said, go find out who turned off the GPS units. Okay, now you remember, Dave Yost, he's leaving. June 6th or 7th is his last day. A new Attorney General's coming in, appointed directly by the administration, the DeWine administration. So what happened with Mike DeWine when all this is going on? His attorney quit him. Who is Dave Yost? Wow. He's the attorney for the state of Ohio. His attorney quit him, okay? Folks, that's how you translate Mike DeWine losing Dave Yost. Dave Yost quit Mike DeWine. He doesn't want any part of this. That's why he's leaving.
Can I just butt in on a couple of things really interesting there? So you're saying that Yost split and it directly had impact with this Medicaid fraud. Can we go far to say that or not?
Look what you got to do. You got to look at what happened. Look at the events that happened. All this broke, and Dave Yost announced his retirement, that he's leaving, his resignation. He literally submitted a very short resignation to Mike DeWine. What is an attorney general? He's not your attorney or my attorney. He's the attorney for the state of Ohio and specifically for the administration. He defends the administration. He does the bidding of the administration. What basically happened when Dave Yost quit was Mike DeWine's attorney quit him in the middle of this firestorm. So look, Mike DeWine plays nice with Dr. Oz. They come in, they do something with optics for glasses for kids who in poor areas that need optics. It's a good program. But, Mike's playing nice. Oh, yeah, we're going to do all these things that the Trump administration is asking. What? Wait, this is the same guy that's been fighting us for the last 5 months. He won't give us any records, whether you're a state representative, whether you're the auditor of state, whether you're an independent NGO, like a nonprofit like the Ohio Christian Alliance. Stephanie Stock said that she's been turned down. They're not giving us any public records requests. And now, because the Fed said, hey, all 50 states, that includes you, Ohio, you don't clean up your act, we're turning off the money. No more money's coming to you. That's when they started freaking out. Also, that the feds are here and investigating, and it will lead back to the DeWine administration. Mark my word.
Oh, there's no way it can't. There's no way it can't, Chris. They got the big bullseye on him and everything. Do you think there's going to be any kind of a prosecution against Governor DeWine or his administration? Do you think there's going to be any kind of prosecution?
I do. I think members of his administration are better lawyer up, as they say, okay? Because this thing's going to be going on for a while. Now, I want you to listen, folks. If you're paying attention, the Assistant Attorney General, okay, of the United States, Pam Bondi left. The Assistant Attorney General made the big announcement in Minneapolis, 15 indictments, federal indictments with $90 million in fraud. And he said, this is not the end. This is not even the beginning of the end. This is just the beginning. We're just getting started. He said, folks, we got a long way to go in Minneapolis. They're here in Ohio. This is going to go on for a long time. We're talking massive fraud. Let me go back with you again. John Solomon's report, just in the year 2023 alone, federal officials tracked $136 million in paper cash. That is equivalent. If it was $100 bills in suitcases, it was paper cash. If you did $100 bills, it would be 1.5 tons of cash. Traffic through the John Glenn International Airport, out of the Somalian community of Greater Columbus, up to the Minneapolis greater Somalian population up there, then bundled with other hundreds of millions, 700 million in total just in 2023 alone, and sent over to Mogadishu, Somalia. That made its way to Al-Shabaab, the terrorist network, and undoubtedly to a lot of bad actors in Somalia. That's your tax dollars and mine. That was just 2023 alone, folks. That's the biggest heist in Ohio history. Now, listen.
Heads have to roll, Chris. Heads have to roll on this whole thing. And that whole thing with Oz, I agree with you. I mean, he is just buttering up to DeWine. There's no way he could be that stupid. There's no way the Trump administration could be that dumb to think that the governor didn't have anything to do with it. All the whistleblowers have come forward and said, we tried to talk, third-party whistleblowers and stuff like that, but we got shut down. The only thing DeWine wanted to know was, who are the whistleblowers? Who are these people? They're going to get in the way. And nothing would have happened except we got Luke Rosiak. We've got some of these reporters, these investigative reporters. Mahek Cook. That's what opened up the whole floodgates and everything. Yeah. Do you have time to take a couple questions from some of these from Brian and Jonathan? Let's just go here. Brian, got a question? I know he's short on time.
Yeah, Chris, thank you very much. The level of corruption in our government, federal, state, is just staggering to me, and I agree with Joe. Unless we start seeing somebody doing a perp walk, you're going to lose the average citizen, the total faith. I'm starting to question any and all of our institutions anymore. They're not looking out for the average citizen at all, and that's very disconcerting to me. And I appreciate what you're doing, Chris.
Thank you, Brian. And thank you for your fine work as well. And you're absolutely right. And, the younger generation right now, and we're dealing with more and more young people, and wherever we go with the Ohio Christian Alliance, this is a new conservative, young group that's coming along, and they were actually at the Medina County Lincoln Day dinner. They're actually Turning Point USA students, okay? And there's a divide between MAGA right now, okay? There's older MAGA and younger MAGA. Younger MAGA is like, hey, President Trump promised no new foreign wars. He promised the affordability of being able to buy a car, a home, higher wages, bringing jobs back to America, a better standard of living, the American dream. We pray that the president is able to do that and finish things up in the Middle East with some kind of agreement, get the Strait of Hormuz open and deal with the uranium deposits, and then be able to refocus on domestic issues. Because as we look towards November right now, it is a disaster in the making for Republicans. Republicans, though, in Ohio, can really help themselves by getting out in front of this issue. That's why when Representative Gross was on here, they're doing some fine work in the legislative committee. I had on my radio program Mike Davila, who has been working on this legislation for over a year. And so I'm going to have Representative Gross next week on my program. And so there are some good things that are happening there. But people say on my feed, when are we going to see people go to jail, and when are we going to get the money back? Okay. And there does need to be that. There needs to be, a repossession of these monies, whether they bought homes and expensive cars. And we know that they did all that. And some of them left the country. They defrauded the Ohio and American taxpayer with both federal and state money. Then they left. There's one individual that Representative Gross said, who's Bhutanese. He set up fraudulent companies of $409 million. And he's over there and he's laughing it off. And the feds haven't gone after him yet. I believe that J.D. Vance is coming down to lower the hammer. We're talking about fraud on a massive scale. Now, let me tell you, government is always doing a little tacit thing, and they say, look what we're doing. And let me explain. So Attorney General Dave Yost, in February, they did a list of 8 indictments of Medicaid fraud, but it only totaled of these individuals $500,000. Are you kidding me? The most recent announcement was another 8. This was just in the last 10 days, another $500,000. That's only $1 million in total of fraud. That's not taking this seriously. We know that these people are doing it by the hundreds and millions of dollars in these industrial-sized complexes in Columbus that's been reported on by the independent journalists of Mahek Cook, Kurt Warner, Jack Windsor, and then Luke Rosiak did a comprehensive report. All these independent journalists, and also according John Solomon of Just the News, this is fraud on a massive scale. And the fact, and whistleblowers are coming forward and saying, I want to talk about my situations, but I need, immunity here. I need to be anonymous, and they do. They need to communicate with the attorney to be able to be a whistleblower because they don't want backlash even for the jobs. They might be working in a healthcare system right now that's not doing things on the up and up, and so they want to report. So those are people that have come to us that we've sent them on to the state auditor's office, and we've sent them to the attorney general to do the same. So J.D. Vance and the feds need to come. The feds are here. They're investigating. And we think that there's going to be an announcement when JD gets here. Now, if it is one of these large complexes and you're talking about, like $100 million or more, then I say, okay, now something's beginning to happen in Ohio. If they're not coming with that, I'm going to tell you something. This won't look good for anybody, especially when it goes to the ballot box in November.
Yeah, this right here from Mahek Cook. This is what you were talking about right here.
State of Ohio, state office holders, they even went to the Attorney General's office. They repeatedly were ignored at the highest levels in Ohio. And when they went to the AG's office, they asked a very serious question. Can you protect us and can you protect our confidentiality? Because they specifically said, if they said anything about this home healthcare fraud, they would literally be stoned to death for speaking the truth. They didn't feel that their concerns were being taken seriously. So in December, when they came to me about the potential home healthcare fraud, I reviewed the information, I investigated it, and I discussed these allegations. I shared the list of potential fraudsters right here in Central Ohio with the Ohio Attorney General's office, the Ohio Department of Medicaid, and even the Auditor's office. After I brought this information forward to the Attorney General's office, initially they asked me for the names of my whistleblowers. Now, as an attorney, I said no, attorney-client privilege, but I did ask them one simple question. Can you protect these whistleblowers? Because then 100% I'll give you the names. They told me no, so I refused.
I just want to stop it there. Anyhow, you get the gist of that. She's talking about the whistleblowers.
That's right.
But she is saying the attorneys general. They went to the attorney general, which would have been Dave Yost. They went to Keith Faber, the auditor. But I know they were being roadblocked by the DeWine administration. But nevertheless, these people are trying. This is mind-bending to me, okay?
Yeah. Yes.
I cannot see how these statewide office holders can just say, oh, it's all DeWine's fault. I didn't have anything to do with it. They came to me. They came to you. Speak up. What do you think about that real quick? And then I'm going to go to Jonathan with a question. But what do you think about that, Chris? Should they have spoken up? Isn't that kind of what the job of what they're there for?
That's what Keith Faber, auditor of state, who's running for attorney general, that's what he's been doing. He's been doing it for months. He did a great comprehensive report like 6 weeks ago before the Medicaid Investigative Committee, and none of the news media in Ohio covered it. Why? Because they know that these liberal programs are benefiting these migrant communities. They know the fraud's taking place. There's probably kickback to office holders and to the Democrats, and they know that huge bleed of money is taking place and has been for years during the Obama years and the Biden years and all this. They know that, and they don't want to cover it. Now they're forced to cover it. They're really upset about it because now the light has been shined. So let's not forget about it. The Democrats are up to their neck in this thing, okay? And so, yeah, you've got the auditor of state who's basically been on top of this. Dave Yost has done some work. And again, let me just say a little bit in his defense. There may be investigations right now underway that they're working with the feds, and there will be some big material. In fact, what the attorney general told me, he said, well, listen, JD's going to make an announcement. He's going to take the credit for it. We've been doing a lot of work. He said, that's okay. We just want to make sure it's done. I cannot disclose what that is right now when an investigation is underway. That's the legal, right? That's the law. So if we hear then that they're going to do some big indictments of some big operations, then and the Attorney General's office has been part of that, that will be kudos to Dave Yost, okay? And I really do hope that happens because I think Dave, is a conscientious man, and I think he wanted to do the right thing. But again, he wasn't getting cooperation from the DeWine administration. Let's understand something here, okay? I mean, when Keith Faber told me, he said, Chris, it's not just Josh Williams not being able to get records or you being able to get records with a public records request. I'm the auditor. It's my job. And they're not giving me the records, okay? Woo! Now DeWine, once he got the threat, from Trump, that's when he's like, oh, we're going to get out in front of that fraud now. And it's like, well, here, oh, and this is the thing. So child care fraud, let's not forget that, remember, because that's how it broke at the beginning of the year. Now they came up with 10 child care centers that they have defunded, and they're going to pass them, refer them on for criminal prosecution, and the amount is just $1 million. Okay.
What a joke! What a joke! So Luke Rosiak, and then how about like Nick Shirley in that? He goes out there and he finds literally $100 million in one day. And the other thing too with DeWine, he said, "Hey, you investigative reporters, you're not allowed to be going to these daycare centers and stuff with a camera. Stay away from them. Yeah. Stay away from them." Yeah. How crazy.
Yeah, welcome back on, Chris. I'm not surprised, but I am, of course, disappointed to hear about these two different $1 million pots that they're going after. I mean, I'm reminded of Frank LaRose coming out in the hot seat of elections issues and announcing to the state of Ohio that he was cleaning up the voter rolls of illegals. And he said there was like 700 people or something, some ridiculously nominal number. Well, I did the math on that, and I made some posts that at that rate, it'll take a little over 7,000 years for Ohio to clean up their voter rolls with an estimated 1.3 million bad or questionable. My point is that these are little token gestures that they do to make a news splash. This whole thing of, this is new to me. I wasn't aware of the 16 people with $1 million on the line. When you're talking about billions of dollars of fraud, that's ridiculous. And I'm with you, Chris. I think that we have to I'm hopeful that between J.D. Vance and President Trump and this administration and something having to happen in our state legislature, hopefully somebody gets off a neutral and actually does something about this. But to me, and I'm with you there, to the average rank and file Ohioan and to people outside of Ohio who think Ohio has a super majority, and I'm air quoting that, of conservative Republicans, this points to a problem that comes up periodically on this show, and that is our open primaries. DeWine, I've said it before, remember I run Ohio Rhino Hunters. DeWine and some of the people around him are what we get when we have open primaries and Democrats are allowed to elect the Republicans into office. And yes, that is my position. It has been since DeWine was reelected after his whole debacle with COVID and putting Amy Acton in the position that he did. In my book, he is not a Republican. He's not somebody that anybody with any proud Ohio ambition and background and hope would vote for. But somehow he carried forward and stayed in office, and I am not surprised, but again, I'm disappointed to find that allegedly, according to the appearances, DeWine may have been behind stonewalling this whole thing. That is my opportunity to interject, and I want Chris's opinion on this, that we need to get back to basics. We need to apply better pressure on primaries and get better people elected. That starts grassroots. It starts local. It starts precinct strategy. Remember, ohioprecinctstrategy.org. Get involved where you live locally, because we cannot survive under this uniparty system where it's just a cabal of bad actors.
Right. Yeah. No, the precinct level of advancing candidates of conservatism is where the battle is won and lost, and that kind of ebbs and flows of people's influence on that. As far as, but I think we're going to be getting a real opportunity here because I think there's going to be a purge that goes on. I really do think that there's going to be a very difficult election coming up in November, and we'll see who survives. I certainly hope that Keith Faber does. He would be the next Attorney General. That's key to protect Ohio's laws that we have passed that are of great concern. And you want to make sure that you have a good conservative Attorney General, and I think Keith Faber would do very well. So, Keith has been above this. He's the one that's been out in front of it. He can do only so much. He can't do the Attorney General's job. He can't, he can't prosecute. He can only audit government. That's his job. And when they forestalled him from doing that in the DeWine administration, Quite honestly, when the auditor, says he's been getting more information from whistleblowers than he was from the administration producing the documents needed for him to fulfill his obligation as state auditor. But he'll be testifying on Wednesday. So there's going to be two big moments that come up here. And those two big moments are Wednesday when Keith Faber testifies before the Congressional Committee. And I think then they're going to be looking for other people in the DeWine administration to come in and testify as to what happened here. But Keith is going to be basically telling them how big the problem is. Then they're going to be requesting more people from the DeWine administration have to come in and testify. Hopefully, the former Medicaid director, because she's a problem. She's got this up to her eyeballs, and she got out 6 months ago, and she was a big issue on this. Why this happened, why this fraud was rampant, and why it was not challenged or not dealt with.
Chris, is that Mary Corcoran?
I think that's her name, yes. But people keep telling me, even in the administration, she's the one. The Attorney General said so. I mean, it's like, so that's the new Medicaid director currently is cooperating with state officials, is working with the Trump administration, okay? It's the one that was in office before that. So in addition, the next big moment will be JD coming to Ohio. Hopefully he's making a major announcement here. And then we expect the feds to actually do a raid like they did in Minneapolis with the Leering Center and other locales where all these investigative reporters have been pointing the finger to. And hopefully that we see those facilities being raided. And then a follow-up to that would be a list of indictments coming down. And hopefully the Attorney General from the U.S. Attorney General would be coming in and say, this is just the beginning of Ohio. We're going to get to the bottom of this. People want to see the money clawed back as much as possible. They want the fraud stopped, and they want it taken seriously. And a couple $1 million of what state government has come up with is pathetic. When you realize the hundreds of millions of dollars that are at stake, that has to change. And if it doesn't, then the Republicans are going to take a spanking in November because the voters are just going to be saying, that's it, you're out. And so they'll purge the system. The Democrats are worse, but the fact of the matter is, I think both sides of the aisle realize right now this is a serious issue. You better be taking it seriously. Ohioans aren't going to stand for this anymore.
Okay, I would say last question I just wanted to ask about that was what you thought the ramifications might be in November on this, and the fact that DeWine is doing so much damage to the Republican Party. He's crushing the Republican Party. It's. So what do you think? How much of an impact, or if this gets cleaned up and it looks like we're doing fine, we could have a decent sailing, smooth sailing up through November. But that's got to happen. I mean, we've got to start laying the hammer down like you were just saying. Got to lay that hammer down. There's got to be prosecutions.
That's right. That's right. If the administration is taking it seriously, let's say even if DeWine cooperates with them and there's big busts and there's lots going on, DeWine could say, well, I never realized the extent of this. We really need to tighten up this law. And then he goes ahead and signs the legislation that's being proposed. If all that works together, then I think that the Republicans can get out in front of it and be, show that they're serious about all this, including the DeWine administration, those officials that are suspect and guilty and have something to hide, but go before Congress. We'll see what happens when they're subpoenaed. But again, to your point, if it is dealt with and they bring huge convictions and we see the money drawn back and then fraud addressed in a major way, it will go well for Republicans. That's the only way I see it. But if they're like Jonathan said, if they're just going to give us a tacit little, throw a little bone out there and think that that's going to do it, just like and do a presser and say we're doing something when everybody knows that $2 million is laughable when you realize the hundreds of millions and billions, according to the state auditor, are at stake. If it's not serious, then it will go badly for them. If it is serious, then I think then people will say, okay, finally something's getting done. And we're doing the best. This channel right now, the Ohio Political News, the Ohio Christian Alliance, we're doing all that we can to report on it. And actually, my X account has really taken off because I've been commenting. Sometimes I would just reshare. Now I'm starting to comment. And because it's like the Dr. Oz video, and because I'm probably from Ohio, more people out there on X nationally are paying attention because they've heard about it now from Fox News, the Associated Press, and others. Ohio is now kind of in the crosshairs there of this, so that's why I think it's kind of gone viral out there, both on social media, Facebook, and with the article I posted, and also on X. So again, as much as we can do, even here with Ohio Political News and with our network of the Ohio Christian Alliance, that's how you get her done. And we'll just keep the fire up, because we're seeing them respond. So we're doing something right, because they're not ignoring us. They're actually active. And so Columbus is scrambling. That's a good thing. We want them to do the right thing.
Absolutely. Hey, Chris, thanks again. Appreciate all your time and effort. I know you.
God bless you, Joe. Thank you.
God bless you. The guys, you're doing great work
Thanks,
there.
Chris.
Awesome work. And we'll be talking soon, okay? Always enjoy having you on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, Brian. So,
Well,
now
I'll
I
just
know what
say
you're going to
that,
say. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say that you have completely restored your faith in the state government and that everything's going to be just
Right.
A-okay.
Well, I think what the Republican Party is really worried about is the people just staying home on Election Day in November. That's what they're really worried about, and that's why they're talking about a constitutional amendment. We talked about it earlier about having a picture of voter ID enshrined in the Constitution. It's not so much that they're worried about getting it enshrined in the Constitution. They just want people to come to the polls, and that's their way of doing it.
You know, I saw something on the in a text message, and I do want to just let everybody know that we will be covering that Wednesday as well. I know Chris had said the Christian Alliance, Ohio Christian Alliance, is going to have it on their website, and we will also have it on Ohio Political News. So we're going to cover that testimony by Keith Faber, and with J.D. Vance and everything on Wednesday. So that's going to be it's going to be interesting. Anything you guys want to say before we kind of wrap things up? Brian, let me go to you, and then I'll go to Jonathan. But I just want to know a little bit about June 5th. What's happening on June 5th, man?
June 5th, you and I are going to get together, and we're going to make a decision, tell everybody the decision whether or not we're going to put the property tax issue on the November 2026 ballot, or are we going to move it to November 2027. So stay tuned for June 5th, 8 a.m.
Yeah, we're going to do that at 8 a.m. That is Friday, right? June 5th is a Friday?
Yes.
Yeah, so it'll be on Friday. And we will have the official word from Brian Massey himself as to whether or not it's going to be on the ballot for this year or on the ballot for next year. Jonathan, you got any last thoughts?
Looking forward to that. I will be tuning in on the 5th. Prior to that, or actually around that, we've got a few events I want to remind everybody. Well, first of all, follow HB 495 in Ohio. That's House Bill 495. That's the first bill that Rep. Gross mentioned that she's working on that has to do with firearms and carrying a firearm in Ohio. The other one that she mentioned she's working on is HB 795. So you've got 495 and 795. Find those and track and follow those. And if you're not already, find Representative Gross. Do like I do. I'm not in her district, but I am paying attention to the things that she's doing in and for Ohio because I like what she's doing. So find Representative Gross and follow her. You can stay up to speed on these. And then, of course, as she puts bills forward, you can work with your local representative to try and encourage votes for them and for them to sign on as well. And then just reminding everybody, go to Marcel Sturbich. I don't think I spelled his last name for anybody that doesn't know. It's Sturbich. Marcel with 2 L's, Marcel Sturbich. Find him on social media, and you're going to find information all around. There are a lot of other people that are posting and reposting, like myself, about submitting testimony regarding this proposed insert into our Ohio Constitution having to do with voter ID laws. This is really important stuff. We need to chime in and send your voice, get your voice into the legislature in Columbus. And that NOACA thing that has to do with metropolitan planning organizations. It's a little bit of a complex thing, but if you're in Northeast Ohio, anywhere in the 5 counties around Cuyahoga, I'm sure you've been hearing about it. Great opportunity on Wednesday to chime in with either in person or submit written testimony. Find me either, depending on the platform, it's J Broadbent or JR Broadbent for more info. And then the last thing that I mentioned is on July 7th at 6:30 p.m., there is a Turning Point Action event with Sandra O'Brien, Dave Thomas, Nick Santucci, and Tex Fisher. That's at the Joe, Brian, what's the name of the diner? I don't have that image pulled up, and I'm just going off of my notes. There's a
it was in Cortland. I remember you saying it was in Cortland.
Yeah, it's in Cortland.
Was it Top Notch Diner?
Top Notch Diner. Thank you for that. Top Notch Diner in Cortland, and that again is on July 7th at 6:30 p.m.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Hey, appreciate everybody. Everybody
Thanks,
tonight,
Sean.
have yourself
Thanks,
a great, and we'll be talking to everybody. And catch Voice of Geauga tomorrow at 7 a.m. All right, thanks, guys.
Welcome
Take
back
care.
to our final broadcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Have a good night.